Okay. Today's talk is entitled How a Pigeon Changed the Media Business Forever. Trust me, you're going to find this interesting, okay? Just stick with it. In 1815, I know it's history, believe me, you're going to find this interesting. In 1815, Napoleon, who had been defeated at the Battle of Waterloo and had been exiled to Elba, was kind of out of the picture. And everybody in Europe thought the great nightmare of Napoleon conquering the world was over. And then Napoleon escaped from Elba. He got out on a ship, he slipped out at night, and he landed in the south of France. And remember, he'd been deposed, and the Bourbon dynasty had been restored, and everybody thought it was back to pre-revolutionary France, and everything was fine. And Napoleon just landed by himself with a couple of guys and started to march north to Paris. And remarkably, as he marched north, people just joined up with him. It was you talk about populism, this was really populism. And pretty soon he had thousands of people marching along with him on his way back to Paris. Well, in Paris, King Louis XVIII, the restored Bourbon monarch, was, crapping in his pants. And he sent the army to stop Napoleon. And at Lyon, they confronted Napoleon, and it looked like it was all over Napoleon. There's this fantastic scene that actually happened where the entire French royal army sent by the king is standing there with their muskets down like this, their rifles down like this, and Napoleon steps forth and opens his chest and said, "If you want to shoot me, shoot me. But if you want to follow me, follow me," or words to that effect. And they all turn around and turn on the king and follow Napoleon. So by the time Napoleon gets to Paris, he's back in control of the country. And Louis XVIII takes off and he heads for Belgium and runs away. It's a fantastic moment in European history, in history in general. This kind of stuff, it's made for movies. It doesn't happen, but it actually happened in real life. But there's a reason I'm telling you this story. Now, of course, with Napoleon restored, the stock markets throughout Europe, and particularly in London, which was the biggest stock market there was, go nuts. Because everybody had thought this whole thing was over, and suddenly everything has gone back to hell, and Napoleon is back in power, and they just finished 20 years of war with him, and now he's been like that. He's been restored. And the markets in London, in the bourse, are teetering, and everybody is terrified about what's going to happen. So the English get together and they say, we got to get rid of this Napoleon guy once and for all, and they send the English army to go and meet him, and they meet him at Waterloo, which is where the big battle takes place. And in 1815, the English army and the army of Napoleon meet at the Battle of Waterloo. And all of the future, all of Europe, everything hangs on this one battle. Everybody, of course, is waiting to hear what happened, and the markets are going crazy. And in those days, news did not travel so fast. Today, if something happens, if they fire off a missile in Korea, you go to CNN and you get it right away. But in 1815, it took 3 days, because it traveled by horse and by ship, for news to get from Belgium, where the Battle of Waterloo took place, back to London, where the markets were. So everybody was kind of waiting for the ship to come in with the news. As everyone was gearing up for the battle, an inventor, a crazy inventor, goes to see Baron Rothschild in London. He's a big investor, Rothschild. And he's kind of the Elon Musk of his day. And he goes and sees Rothschild, and he says to Rothschild, "I have this fantastic new invention, and I want you to take a look at it." And he opens a box, and in the box is a pigeon. And Rothschild says, "What does it do?" And he says, "Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go to the Battle of Waterloo as it takes place, and I'm going to put a little band around the foot of the pigeon and tell you who won the war, and I'm going to release it, and it's going to fly right back here to your offices, and you're going to know 3 days before everybody else who won the battle. Isn't that worth something to you?" And Rothschild goes, "It certainly is. Here's some money. Head for Belgium." So the guy goes to Belgium with his pigeon, and the Battle of Waterloo takes place, and Napoleon loses. And he gets the pigeon, and he puts a little note thing, and he releases the pigeon, and the pigeon flies back to Rothschild's offices, and Rothschild gets the pigeon and undoes the band and goes, great. Then Rothschild goes, this is why the guy was so smart and so rich. So Rothschild goes down to the floor of the stock market, and he starts walking around the stock market and go, "We lost. Napoleon won. It's a massive defeat. Everything is terrible." And of course, on the news of this, all the markets crater, and the price shares collapse, and everything is a mess. And then Rothschild goes and he buys up all the shares he can at these really low prices. 3 days later, the ship comes in, and of course they say, guess what? We won, Napoleon's been defeated. And of course the markets go bang, way up to the top again, and Rothschild makes a bloody fortune, as they say in London. The reason was he had advanced information. This is what the combination of technology and information is really all about. It's really all about getting the information, good information, a little bit ahead of everybody else. So Rothschild made his money, and he knew what to do with the information, off of what we'll call P-mail, pigeon mail. And legend has it that the guy who brought him the pigeon was named Joseph Reuter. You may have heard of Reuters news service. So the Rothschilds were the first ones to use P-mail. The point of this story is the combination of information and technology and what that does to making money, which is what we're all really interested in at the end of the day. If you can get the edge on the technology and you can be there ahead of everybody else, you can make a fortune if you know what to do with it. So now let's talk about, iPhones and video and all that kind of stuff. There's an explosion out in the world of cable channels. You may have heard today that Discovery bought Scripps, which is HGTV, Food Channel, Cooking Network, all that kind of stuff. And now Discovery is like this massive animal that owns all these channels. In fact, there are 40,000 channels around the world that have to be filled 24 hours a day. They eat content. Well, of course, you get so many channels, and they all need stuff. With so many channels, the number of people who can watch it gets fractionalized. Some of them are really, really tiny. I mean, look at your own cable system. How many times did you ever go to channel 262? Like never. But if you own channel 262, you still have to put something on it. They don't make enough money to pay for giant crews and cameramen and production companies and stuff like that. But they do make enough money to allow you with your iPhone, if you got some creativity, and that I can't control, to make programming and sell it to them. Today on our newsletter, we're sending out a fantastic story about one of our guys who found a 9-year-old girl who wins. She's won 16 trophies for motorcycle racing. So he went down to Pennsylvania, spent a couple of days with her, shot the stuff. I think this thing's going to be a winner. Just like Rothschild with the pigeons, if you want to make a fortune, and you can, the trick is to understand the technology, get there first, and embrace it. The technology is here, the match is there, and we can do this for you. So that's today's story. Wise up. Pigeons are dead. iPhones are not. It's where it's happening. And thevj.com is the place we're going to explain all this stuff to you. I hope you like that little historical story. See you later.